Good morning, fellow creators. It is Sunday, the 29th of March, 2020, almost said 6. This video goes up today because I did no painting yesterday, or at least very little. So I want to give you guys some updates about what's going on, but I recorded this morning's, some of this morning's painting session working on this. So I'll throw that in time-lapse for you in the background as I'm talking to keep you guys entertained and caught up to speed with where I am now. So I wasn't super motivated yesterday to really do much painting. I'm not really sure why. I got into the studio, I started putzing around doing stuff, but it was like I was just basically pacing the floor, and it's like I literally cannot bring myself to work on anything. So I went upstairs and I played games for most of the day. But today, I do feel the motivation really pushing me forward. I figured at the very least, I got to drop the bridges in for this painting, so that's what I did. That's the core of this process to start. And I found, just in doing that, and it was also a matter of like finding the right music playlist, because, you know, sometimes you get caught up in one versus another, and it's like, you know, I'm not really feeling this. It's like I don't want the heavy rock stuff today, but I also like feeling that kind of heavy rock mood, but don't really want to listen to it. It was just a culmination of all sorts of things that I was just like, nothing's really sitting with me this morning. At least that's how it felt yesterday. Today, however, is obviously a little different. I'm feeling pretty good, working my way through this piece. At this point, I am actually in the last sort of 5 to 10%. I was once I finished the bridge and kind of like really looked over the piece, I was like, I'm pretty much there. I just need to, you know, throw in some glazes, and I think I'll be good. And in throwing in some of these glazes, this is where it sort of leads me into the new stuff. So I did some rearranging in the studio recently, which I'll show you guys a little bit later here. Starting some other new projects. General organization. I have 2 shows. Well, one now that I think I announced 2 weeks ago or so during the live event that I did, but officially now, the show where this piece will be a part of, The Chaos Within, will be spring of 2027. So essentially the next year, pretty much every vlog, at least to some degree, is going to be a small piece of what will culminate into that show. But everything, you know, of course, between here and there is a really long period of time. And I know that for, you know, better or worse, however long that takes, well, a year, quite literally. A little bit over a year, technically, because it's the second and third weekends of that month next year. So I have all that time to flesh out this series and take you along for that journey, which I'm really excited for. This past week was a real absolute shit show for me personally. I felt kind of sick Monday morning, so I took a half day just in the morning, and then Thursday, believe it was, I get a message from the guy at Studio 4. His name's Noah. It's the place I had my last exhibition. He's been coordinating with this bakery and teaching space down in the city that has been having a rotation of artists show there. And as a result I put in I thought, like, hey, maybe I'll, you know, submit to this or whatever. So I put that in back in November, and just this past week, I was like, oh, hey, I see your name was on the thing. Do you want to do this? I have to have all of this stuff within the next, like, day and a half. And I was like, oh, well, shit. So I had to take another half day off work just to compile and figure out what pieces I'm gonna send down there. You know, type out information for tags, and then drop those off and send those away. So that's going to be down in this place called Third Space Bakery, down in the city, and cool to have that selection. I took like some old stuff and some new stuff. I'm like, oh, I can take some smaller stuff, some older things. There's like, it's like literally a range from something I finished in, was it last January, I think, all the way through as far back as 2020. So it's just like this mixing of my work from the past couple of years, and then because it's in that newer space, quite possibly some newer eyes on that work. So it's like a good introduction into my worlds. But it was sort of like, ah, crap, I have to, there was like the email. I'm like, it's like, hey, did you have a chance to look at the email? I'm like, no, probably not going to have a chance to look at the email until maybe, I don't know, Saturday. And he's like, well, I know I need to have all this stuff and I need a definitive answer by like Friday night. I'm like, well, shit. So that's where that ended up leading me. So after all that and all that much of a week, so Saturday morning, I was just like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to sit and veg out and not have to worry about much. But this morning, I am, as I mentioned before, pretty motivated to work. I should be caught up for you guys to the time lapse. So here I am again. So I'm currently working on a glazing layer of some Indian yellow. This is exciting for two reasons. One, this piece really needed this. Just a way to really amp up the colors and create this nice warm glow to the whole piece, which it's been lacking a little bit. This is just like a unifying layer in a lot of ways. Let me turn the camera around and show you guys. This is actually a good sort of like side-by-side comparison, so you guys can see this difference. Probably got to get a picture for Instagram too. Okay, so I'm about halfway through this glazing process here. I'm adding some Indian yellow to sort of the whole thing. This is fun. I needed this. So this is really unifying the whole piece in a lot of ways. I'm going to do my darks with the blue as well, but yeah, it's like this is fun too because you can really see this. Like the second I pull that brush over, especially the lighter parts, you can like really see this difference, and just how it like brings everything to light. Everything's kind of like the values are there, you know, but it's like you add just this upper glaze, and it's like magic. It just goes whoosh and turns all of the underlying colors up to like 11. It just amplifies everything up. Anyway, so this yellow, this is the original Indian yellow from Golden, the one that uses the color they can't make anymore, or PR206, the quinacridone burnt orange. The pigment isn't made anymore, and I've been hesitant to use the tube at all. Because it is like the last of it, of course. But for a piece like this for this show, that's it's almost necessary. Go ahead and use it. This is a important piece for this project. But that said, so I was hanging out with my friend Tiffany, who you guys have seen in a handful of videos over the years. We hung out, we painted for a bit, and we went down to Blick's and did a little art supply shopping. And while we were hanging out and talking about stuff and everything like that, she handed me this. And so this is the Artist Loft Professional. This is Michael's house brand of acrylics. I've never actually used this one brand in particular, but should be a high quality acrylic. But what she said, she handed this to me and she goes, "It's the real one." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Look at the pigments," which took me a while to find. I'm like, "Are they even on here?" Like, and there's PR206 on the back, so it's not the same yellow exactly that's in the Golden one, but it is the PR206, and she's like, "Here, you can have this. I found it." And I was like, "Yeah, this is why we're friends, because you're just..." Excuse me. Like here's this discontinued pigment that we both love, and it gave me an excuse to use this old paint now on this piece, which I am mixing with a ample amount of glazing liquid for this upper glow. And then, strangely enough, it's like this is exactly what this piece needed. That, and she also gave me the suggestion to put this little point flare here, which really just unifies everything, and it balances it out with the sun and everything. It's like, oh, this was so perfect, I needed this. It's like at a certain point, it's like that's why art friends are super important. It's like you can get suggestions and see things that weren't really planning on being there and stuff like that. So that's really, really fun. Additionally, I've made a big change to my regular set of acrylic colors. Something that this is a change that I'm kind of surprised. I kind of pulled the trigger on here, and that is to switch out my Prussian blue for something different. Something similar, but actually something very different at the same time. So my deep blue that I use for this day and age, mixing a lot of the browns, because I mix with the transparent red oxide to get a lot of my deeper tones for the shadows. But I have been using the Liquitex version of the Prussian blue, which is phthalo, a violet, and a black, which I've always really loved. And over in the high flow line, I have this color that Golden makes, obviously, because it's high flow. Their indigo, which is also called anthraquinone. It's a hell of a mouthful. The only reason I know how to say it is because I heard them say it in one of their videos. Anthraquinone, it's PB60. It's a single pigment, deep reddish blue, similar to the Prussian, but this is glossy. By comparison, it's also interestingly mixes kind of close to ultramarine, which I don't really like ultramarine. And funny enough, talking to my friend, she was like, "Oh yeah, I hate ultramarine, it's awful." We were talking about that, and I had an extra tube of the Prussian blue, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't really have any of the Prussian blue right now, but what I did is got the indigo." I'm just gonna call it indigo because it's easier to say, and that's what I've been using lately. And I'm like, "Well, I'll tell you what." And we went to the store. I was looking at all the tubes. I'm like, "Well, if you want that other extra tube that I have of the Prussian blue, maybe I'll actually pick up the indigo." So I did. So I finally have made this big change on my palette from the Prussian blue to the single pigment anthraquinone indigo color. And so this is a semi-transparent blue. I gotta double check. Yeah, the Prussian blue is actually a semi-opaque, so it is leaning transparent. But it is a nice, rich, dark blue, and the vast majority of what I'm going to do with this is to mix these browns. So I got back, did a mixing chart, and I'm like, okay, we're good. So I'm excited to work with that color a bit more now, and do quite a bit of extra stuff with that. Other stuff I picked up, primarily it was a lot of restocks. I needed some, oddly enough, white and black Conte crayons for certain stuff that I'm doing for early prep projects for new pieces. I was more specifically the white than the black, but I did need both to really kind of pull that together. I'm trying to do this and talk and concentrate all at once. One of the gold mediums that I've actually never tried, I finally picked up as well. There was a suggestion to try it in the comments of some video from forever ago, and that is the fiber paste, which is opaque paste, and it dries to a little bit of a grit. I'd say it's actually very similar to the coarse molding paste, just in terms of overall finished feel. And that particular one, I've been messing with more wood panels. So I applied to this panel yesterday. It's like the little bit of painting I did, and then once that was dry, I just came across it with some green and yellow acrylic and just started that as a base. I think I'm gonna tackle this with some pastels and turn this into more of a mixed media project. But I like that as a starting base. Let's see. Let me double check my shopping list here to see what the other new stuff I picked up was. So this kind of put my shopping trip a little further over the intended budget. But it's been on my list for a while. It's this stuff called Epoxy Sculpt. It's this two-part sort of putty that, as you mix it together, becomes tackier and thicker, and you can sculpt with it. And it's an interesting little modeling sculpting medium. A friend of mine introduced me to this stuff years ago, and I'm like, I've been wanting to try it. And I'm like, ooh, I should look for this to see if it's here while I'm here, and it was. So that was good. So I picked some of that up for just a side personal project that I've had off put for a long time. But it's nice to actually have some of that now to hopefully get back to that project eventually. One of the reasons why we went to Blick in particular to rather than ANC Supply, which is also like sort of right down there, is I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure Blick has the big 4-ounce bottles of the high flows, and I'm out of the white that I use. So we get down there, and they had obviously gone through some changes with supplies and things recently, and they no longer have the larger tubes of the high flows. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. That's the whole point of coming down here versus the other store. But I was there anyway, and I did still have the old one. So I just bought 2 little ones and refilled the one I have. So I got another half bottle of it for a while. And I guess I got to buy the bigger ones online now, which is really weird because I know they had them in the store previously. It feels weird for that to be one of those ones that they got rid of. It's very strange. Yeah, other than that, there was because I'm starting to use my pastels a bit more as well. Part of that being having the box sitting out for them is actually getting me to use them. Like now that they're more accessible, I find myself using them more. And once I had everything organized in the box, I'm like, ooh, I actually have a little bit more space. I can expand my colors out a little bit, and everything like that. All right, so looking at my list, in order to show you guys the rest of the stuff that I've got, I do need to move the camera. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this glazing layer, which I'm just about done with anyway. And show you guys the other stuff in the meantime. Okay, let's talk new supplies. So I had mentioned the chalk pastels, or the Conte crayons rather, white and black, as was very needed. Earlier this year, as you guys, if you've seen these vlogs this year, know that I got this pastel box organization set, and it's actually helping me use my stuff a lot more. Because when it's buried in the drawer down here, I didn't really touch it. But now that it's actually more accessible, I find myself reaching for it a lot more often, which is awesome. So in doing so as well, I went and I was looking, I'm like, I don't need, but I can expand out some of these colors a little bit more now. So I got like 6 or 8 new pastel colors. There was like a couple of these brighter reds, this one in particular. There's a pale yellow in here that I either added or moved. I can't really remember now. A couple of new greens, which are a lot sort of, I call them storybook green, sort of springy, high chroma greens, which I was like, I don't really have anything in that end of that range. Mostly though, I was looking at blues, so I grabbed some lighter pastel blues, as well as the biggest ones were these blue leaning turquoises. And I was like I was looking at my blues, I'm like, I don't have anything that starts leaning green from the blue. And that's the thing with pastels, is like, you can't really, I mean, you can kind of mix with pastels, but you can't, especially chalk pastels, you kind of just need that range of colors. I also grabbed a couple of violets as well. I don't know if I used that one or not, but that's a brighter one in that set. I think that's all, yeah, for those anyhow. That was the biggest thing, was getting those turquoises in particular. Then I'm just like, maybe some like reds or greens, I don't really know. Appropriately, the other restock was a can of fixative. And because I'm weird, it's like I keep being like, oh, I don't have like that many 3B pencils. So I'll get a couple of 3B pencils for my insane amount of pencils that I don't need any more of, but I still seem to keep buying. And guys, you might also remember when I did the pen comparison video, I talked about the Derwent Line Maker being a choice favorite of mine. I'm like, I gotta get more of these if they exist in other sizes. They do, so I picked a couple of more of those up for the insane amount of pens I don't need any more of. There was a masking tape restock, and then there was a new restock, sort of a new restock. I didn't have a bigger tube of it, but it is another oil color. This was one of the Williamsburg colors that was in my original sampler set. This is Style de Grand. It is one of the few coarse colors, so if you look real close on the tube, it actually has like this really textural grit to it. And I've been leaning a lot more towards the the Williamsburg colors because they have that range of like the medium and the coarse colors that are like textural, thick, grainy earth colors. And when I'm working with oils, that's usually what I'm doing is I'm letting that relaxed painting time and taking advantage of that by using really thick paint and just letting myself sculpt with that a lot more. And that's what one of my new pieces is going to be like, and probably some of these smaller wood panels that I've been making as well. I'm just really loving that textural experience that a lot of these earth colors have. So I picked one of these up because I had the little tube and I used it up when I was making that big space painting earlier, late last year, early this year. Whenever I did end up finishing that, I don't remember now. But yeah, I was like, I'm going to get one of these. I actually have a list of several of the Williamsburg earth colors I want to pick up, but I have to use some of what I already have first before I buy any more of that, because I have limited space in my oil box for that stuff. Now, additionally, I had mentioned earlier, I did a little bit of a reorganization in the studio. The biggest thing, biggest thing is the stuff with the table, but we'll get there in a second. As some of you guys know from earlier this year, because I put this box here, I had to move the sketchbooks that were all lined up on this back wall. And I thought about it for a while, and I was like, you know what, when's the last time I really needed to look through a sketchbook from 6 years ago? Probably 6 years ago. So I'm like, I can put them further out of reach, like I don't need that quick access to my old sketchbooks all the time. So I'm like, let's find another place. So I stacked some of them there, I moved some of them to the bookshelf, but I didn't like the fact that they were split. So I was thinking, I was like, I'll tell you what, the one thing that's keeping me from being able to move all my sketchbooks into the corner were the oil brushes, which I now have moved out to the table, which is another one of those sort of access things. I think having the oil brushes out here, the acrylic brushes are in front, ink tools and watercolor tools are more front and center, but the oil brushes are now out here on the table with all the other brushes. I was going to put them in the center originally, and then I was like, wait a minute, the camera sits in the center, and then there's going to be all these brushes in the bottom of the camera shot every single video. I'm like, I can't do that, I have to go over here. Much like the pastels, I know in having these out, it will get me to probably grab my oil paints a lot more often. And usually when I'm using oils, it's like the acrylic side, and if I'm using oils, I'm probably going to be on an easel off to the side anyway, so it makes sense to have them back here, closer to where I keep the paints themselves. Now, in moving those brushes, I now have this whole lower section where all of the sketchbooks can fit. The lamp took a fair bit of headache to get the cord to wrap all the way around behind this. But now, from the biggest, oldest ones, all the way down to the newer, smaller ones, I was really excited too to see that I can double stack them. So a little piece of cardboard on top, nice back and forth with my placement to get them to sit nice and tight. And now I can double stack them. And I have actually now even more space over here for these sketchbooks than I did over on the other side. So I'm very excited for that. I was able to work my art books down. It was always just like a temporary thing whenever I put the pastel box in. So having this new dedicated space over here, not just for having even more sketchbooks and an excuse to have even more sketchbooks, but they're out of the way, but still accessible, which is really nice. And the final big cleanup was underneath this table, and it's kind of what started off this whole thing. It's mostly what I did last weekend. I didn't really paint a ton. I hung out with my friend. We went to the art store, and I spent like 3 hours reorganizing all of this. So, part of the journey of this was about 6 months ago. The second receiver, the microphones that I record with here, I dropped down in here somewhere, and it just disappeared for 6 months. I knew it was somewhere down here, didn't know exactly where. So I'm like, well, crap. So I went on a journey, and I was like, well, you know what? While I'm down here, I might as well just rearrange everything in the bottom. So all the glass bottles and jars and things, I moved to a very dedicated spot, sort of by the computer, as well as butt up against my organizer on the other side of this. The spray paint, I did a little bit of moving around with. I now have a clearer access to like the spray caps and the tools and the cleaner. The colors are here. As we hit like black and white, it goes that way and turns into fixatives and clear coats and stuff like that. So it's like grays and golds and fixatives, and then the colors are right up front. which makes a lot more sense for me. Underneath it was always a series of just wherever the hell I want to throw the rags and stuff like that. There's this drawer box which had additional rags in it because I have 8 billion rags from old shirts and stuff like that. This is now, it's sort of canvas scraps and general fabrics. There's like things like shoelaces, and like there's an old leather belt in here and that really awesome lacy pattern thing that I put in a lot of pieces. This box used to be on the far side. This is a bunch of this little tracing papery stuff that I slowly accumulated at an old job. And I moved my paper cutter down here as well. It took me a while to find the spot that I wanted for that, because in cleaning this up, and there's actually like almost nothing under this anymore, which is crazy because I don't think I've cleaned underneath this and dusted underneath this for like 5 or 6 years. I had also had all these plastic bags, which, you know, occasionally you cover your pallet. I moved these in here so they're out of the way, off the cluttering floor space. And in the far back corner that you guys can't see are all the extra water vessels and things like that. So other containers for water, and big ones, small ones, some as big as your head. Quite literally, actually. So I'm really happy that this is a lot cleaner of a space now, both underneath the table as well as the lower shelf as well. So both easier access, and a large part of this too is being able to scoot these cans, because the cans were like right up to the edge. And one thing that I do when I'm sitting and painting, sitting on my stool a lot of the times, is I'll sit, and as I'm sitting working on a painting, I'll do this with one foot. And when the cans were here, I was constantly pushing them back and pushing them back. So now I have this extra part of this ledge. So while I'm painting, I can do this, and then just not have that be a problem with pushing all of my inventory back. So that's fun. And then the rags got upgraded to a new box, which sit where the paper cutter was on this shelf, out of the way, but still very accessible at the same time, which is awesome. And last, but certainly not least, we have this guy, which some of you guys probably somewhat recognize from the live stream. This I originally started by just laying down a few different layers of acrylic. I was tapping with a broom and getting some layers on. I started with a pastel sketch, and I was like, I don't like anything about this color. So I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna grab a big knife and slap some oil onto this. So I slapped some oil onto it, covered the whole thing in some Galkid oil and some spirits, and then just kind of scraped it all back. So that's how I got to this point. So this is up on this easel, sitting kind of low because I have a pillow here. I'm probably going to be kneeling down the first few pieces of this piece. I got out a couple of oil colors, some sort of like green and gray, as well as this blue ochre stick in the Galkid gel, and that's probably where I'm going to start with like an initial sketch. So it's not as rainbowy as it was. It's a lot more yellow. It's the red, yellow, green. The blue kind of fades in more. It's good. Like, it's very different from how it was 2 weeks ago, and in a completely different medium. I just obliterated everything that was there basically and covered it all up. I need to think on this a little bit. I definitely think focal point here, and I like the idea of this being essentially 2 paintings in one. So like vertical, and like, well, there's ones you can reverse essentially. So a landscape up here and a landscape down here, but upside down. And I'm playing with this idea of 2 reflecting worlds. So not necessarily perfect symmetry. In the sense of, actually, now that I say that out loud, I kind of like the idea of it being the same base idea of positive and negative space, but what's in the landscape is 2 completely different things. So maybe like one of them is really desolate and like a wasteland, and the other one's like really lush and has a bunch of like trees and stuff. I gotta write that down. I like that idea. And in writing that down, I thought, like, just thinking about this just now, like, what a crazy like juxtaposition that would be too. That the rich foliage would be the reds, and then like the barren wasteland would be the blues. So it screws with your brain that way. I like that idea. I'm probably going to work on that later now. like really like sharp edges up with the blues, and then. Okay, so you guys are getting a still frame here for the next few minutes as I ramble, because at some point the camera turned, or I didn't turn it back the way I was supposed to turn it, and I didn't notice until the very end. The worms actually are the ones is where you get that foliage coming. I really like that idea. Okay, apparently all I have to do is talk to a camera for a little bit for the ideas to flow. Okay, I got to get back to the canyon piece, because I want to work in that final shadow layer and actually finish the project, because it's been going on a couple of months now, and I really want to get away from that, get the smaller wood panels onto the table, and have this to work on in sort of in the back wings of that. So this will be similar to the other oil stuff I've done lately, a lot of knife work, stuff like that. Mostly going to play with it's gonna, like the first sketch is going to be the oil stick, and then these two other. The two left of my samplers. It's Courbet green and French Ardois gray, which is the gray being one of those thicker, coarser colors, and the green is going to be just there to tone it. So it's going to be like this deep greenish smattering of stuff, and then the underlying blue ochre from that to really kind of amplify that up. I just gotta think a little bit about what I want this silhouette to look like. Maybe I'll even keep that center. So now I'm looking at it, and it's like, with the knife work I have, it's always already kind of like peeking down in like this and like that. So like rolling hills here, but more angular shapes there. I got more stuff I got to write down. I'm gonna have to let you guys go, because now I'm working with this, and it's trying to angles and then hills, something more plain like that. I gotta call this a vlog, because I'm the ideas are starting to flow now, and I gotta actually I can't work on this yet though. I gotta work on the other one. All right, so just realized I've been talking all this time and the camera's been facing that way. So I'm going to work on this after I finish the other one and get back to you guys. Keep on painting. Stay inspired. I really don't know how long the camera was facing that way. I'm so damn sorry.